October 12, 1942. Nizhny Tagil, Ural Mountains. The factory siren cuts through the darkness like a blade. It is not an air raid warning, those come later, but the sound that governs life now. A summons. Steel walls tremble as the whistle echoes across snow-dusted barracks and wooden dormitories thrown up in haste. Somewhere inside one of them, a boy named Alexei Morozov, 14 years old, opens his eyes before the frost has fully formed on the window. The room smells of coal smoke, damp wool and unwashed hands. Boots thud on the floorboards. Someone coughs. Someone else swears quietly, like an adult who has learned new habits too fast. Alexei swings his legs down, pulls on trousers stiff with yesterday's grease, and reaches for a jacket that once belonged to his father. It hangs loose on his shoulders, the sleeves rolled twice. He does not complain. No one does. Outside, the air bites hard enough to hurt. The Urals are already deep into winter, weeks ahead of Moscow. The sky is still black, but the factory complex ahead glows faintly, rows of windows lit like a city that never sleeps. This is Factory No. 183, evacuated from Kharkov and reborn here in the east. It is now the beating heart of Soviet tank production. And it is running on children. Alexei joins the silent column, moving toward the gates. Boys and girls, 13, 14, some no older than 12, walk beside women with kerchiefs tied tight under their chins and old men with stooped backs. The men who once filled these lines are gone. Drafted. Killed. Missing. The Red Army needs tanks more than it needs childhoods. At the gate, a guard checks passes by the light of a swinging bulb. Inside, the noise hits like a wall. Metal on metal. The hiss of welding torches. The rhythmic pounding of presses shaping armor plate. You feel it in your teeth before you understand it with your ears. This is where T-34 tanks are born. 30 tons of sloped steel meant to stop German shells on the steppe. Alexei reports to Assembly Hall 3, where hulls sit in various stages of completion like enormous carcasses. His job is simple, they told him when he arrived 2 months ago. Deburr castings, file down rough edges, clean weld seams. Simple does not mean easy. The steel is unforgiving. One slip in the file bites flesh. Bandages are wrapped tight. Blood is wiped away and work continues. His supervisor, Sergeant Ivan Petrov, is not really a sergeant anymore. He lost his unit outside Vyazma and was reassigned here, deemed more useful keeping production moving. He carries himself like a man still at the front, voice clipped, eyes sharp. Morozov, he calls over the din. You're late by 1 minute. Alexei straightens. Yes, Comrade Petrov. Petrov looks at him for a long moment, then turns away. 1 minute means nothing here. Only quotas matter. The quota today is impossible. It is always impossible. 3 hulls must pass inspection by nightfall. That means every weld, every fitting, every bolt must be finished without delay. Somewhere far to the west, German panzer divisions are still advancing, and every delay here means more Soviet infantry-facing tanks with rifles and grenades. By mid-morning, Alexei's hands are numb despite the gloves. The file scrapes, sparks jump, and the smell of hot metal fills his nose. When he pauses to stretch his fingers, he hears the distant rumble of a test engine firing up. A completed T-34 is being driven for the first time. The sound rolls through the hall like thunder. He imagines it at the front. Imagines a crew climbing inside. Grown men. Soldiers. He wonders if his father might be among them. There has been no letter in 8 months. At noon, there is a break in theory and none in practice. A ladle of thin cabbage soup is passed along. Alexei drinks it standing up, leaning against a hull still warm from welding. A girl named Nina Volkova, 15, wipes her mouth with her sleeve and grins at him. They say this one's going to Stalingrad, she shouts, nodding at the tank beside them. Alexei nods back. Stalingrad has become a word that carries weight all by itself. a place where the war is deciding something final. The siren sounds again, short this time. Not an alarm. A shift change. But most stay where they are. Overtime is not asked for, it is assumed. As the day drags into night, Alexei feels the fatigue settle deep into his bones. The machines do not slow. The war does not pause. Somewhere beyond the Urals, beyond the darkness, men are fighting and dying inside machines built by children like him. He tightens his grip on the file and goes back to work. The lights in Assembly Hall 3 never go out. When Alexei finally steps back into the night, the sky has shifted from black to a pale, frozen blue. Snow squeaks under his boots with each step toward the dormitory. His ears are still ringing with the echo of hammers and engines, a phantom noise that follows him even into sleep. October 13th, 1942. Nizhny Tagil. Morning comes too soon. It always does. Alexei sits on his bunk, rubbing his eyes as a woman in a threadbare coat walks between the rows of beds, ringing a small bell. She is Comrade Sokolova, assigned by the local party committee to oversee education. Once, she taught literature in Kharkov. Now she teaches whatever can survive between shifts. Books out, she calls softly. 15 minutes. From under mattresses and coats, children pull out battered notebooks, pencils worn down to stubs. Alexei opens his to a page filled with cramped handwriting. Mathematics. Fractions and ratios. The irony is not lost on him. He calculates tolerances on armor plates all day, yet here he is, still officially a student. Sokolova writes a problem on a scrap of cardboard, propped against a chair. Her voice is calm, steady, as if the war exists somewhere else. Alexei tries to focus, but his hands shake from exhaustion. Ink smears where his fingers press too hard. The bell rings again. Lesson over. Childhood postponed. By 6, they are back inside the factory. Today Alexei is reassigned. Petrov points him toward a new station, near the welding line. You're small, Petrov says, almost apologetic. You fit where others don't. The task is fitting internal brackets. Steel supports welded inside the hull to hold ammunition racks. The space is cramped, dark, and still hot from recent work. Alexei crawls inside the steel belly of the tank, knees scraping against rough metal. The smell is overpowering. Oil, ozone, burned flux. Inside, sound becomes muffled and intimate. Each hammer strike echoes like a gunshot in his skull. Sweat drips down his neck despite the cold outside. He works by the light of a single bulb, fingers clumsy in thick gloves. At one point, the tank beside his shudders. An overhead crane lowers a turret ring into place, chains rattling. Alexei freezes. He has been warned. Never assume they remember you are inside. He bangs on the hull with his fist. 3 sharp knocks the signal. The crane stops. Someone swears above. A face peers down through the open hatch. Still alive, Morozov, a voice calls. Yes, Alexei answers. He is not joking when he says it. By afternoon, rumors ripple through the hall. German forces are surrounded at Stalingrad. Or maybe Soviet forces are. No one knows for sure. What they do know is this: production targets have increased again. Another directive from Moscow. More tanks. Faster. Nina appears at his hatch with a tin cup of water. She smiles, but her eyes are rimmed red. My brother wrote, she says. From the Don front. Alexei takes the cup. Is he? He's alive, she interrupts quickly. For now. The words hang between them. Alive for now. It is the closest thing to hope anyone allows themselves. That evening an inspection team arrives. Engineers in cleaner coats, a party representative with a notebook. They move down the line, tapping welds, measuring seams. When they reach Alexei's hull, the inspector ducks inside, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. He runs a hand along the bracket Alexei installed. Presses hard. The metal holds. Who did this? The inspector asks. Petrov nods toward the boy, still half inside the tank. The inspector studies Alexei for a moment. Good, he says simply. This will go to the guard's army. Alexei does not know exactly what that means, but Petrov's jaw tightens with something like pride. Night falls again. Another shift bleeds into the next. Somewhere around midnight the power flickers. The machines slow, then surge back as generators kick in. No one stops working. Alexei's hands ache so badly he can barely unclench them. He wraps them in rags soaked with warm water, then goes back inside the hull. Every movement is learned now, automatic. Fear has been replaced by routine, and routine by something harder, responsibility. When he finally crawls out, he looks back at the tank. White chalk letters have been scrawled on the side, for the motherland. He reaches out and touches the cold steel, just for a second. It is the closest thing to a promise he has. December 3rd, 1942. Nizhny Tagil. Winter tightens its grip, and this time it feels permanent. Snow piles against the factory walls in hard, wind-carved drifts. Inside, the heat from furnaces and welders turns the halls into a choking contrast of sweat and steam. Alexei has grown taller since October. Not much, but enough that his father's jacket now fits a little better. His hands are different too. The skin has split and healed so many times it no longer feels young. Production has not slowed. If anything, it has accelerated. The encirclement at Stalingrad is real now, confirmed by Pravda posters plastered on every wall. German 6th Army trapped. Victory promised. But promises do not ease quotas. They raise them. Alexei works 12 hours most days, sometimes 14. School lessons have shrunk to 10 minutes, then 5. On some mornings, Comrade Sokolova does not come at all. When she does, she looks older every time, as if the factory is consuming her too. Today Alexei is assigned to final inspection prep. It is delicate work, checking bolt tension, clearing slag from weld seams before the official inspectors arrive. A missed flaw can mean a tank rejected, delayed, or worse, sent to the front with a weakness no one will discover until it fails under fire. Petrov leans close as Alexei tightens a bolt on the suspension mount. Do it again, he says. Alexei frowns. It's within tolerance. Again. He does it again. The wrench bites. The metal sings faintly. Petrov nods. Good, cold metal lies. Always check twice in winter. Outside the hall, an engine roars to life. A completed T-34 lurches forward, tracks clanking as it rolls toward the test yard. Workers pause just long enough to watch it pass. Someone removes a cap. Someone else mutters a quick prayer. By now, Alexei knows the tank's shape by heart. The slope of the armor. The rough texture of cast steel. He can tell by sound if an engine is misaligned. He can tell by smell if a weld is bad. These are not skills meant for a boy. In the dormitory that night, a new face appears on the empty bunk across from Alexei. A boy named Mikhail, 13, evacuated from Leningrad. He does not speak much. When he does, his voice is flat. They said this was better than the blockade, he says once, staring at the wall. Alexei does not know what to say, so he says nothing. December 18th. An accident. It happens in Hall 2, but the sound carries. A scream cut short. The line stops for exactly 9 minutes. Alexei stands with the others as medics carry a woman past, her arm wrapped in bloody cloth. The machine that took it is already being cleaned. Work resumes. No speech is given. No silence is observed. The war does not pause for loss. That evening, Petrov gathers the younger workers near a hull waiting for paint. You're doing the work of men, he says. His voice is hoarse. The front knows it, whether they tell you or not. Nina stands beside Alexei, her face pale. She has received another letter. Her brother is gone now. The letter is from his commander. When the shift ends, she does not go back to the dormitory. She stays, volunteering for another 4 hours. Alexei joins her. No one asks why. On December 31st, there is no celebration. Just a change of date on the chalkboard. The factory produces 14 tanks that day, one more than planned. Someone chalks a small star near the door. Alexei thinks of home, of a table that no longer exists, of a father who may already be dead. He thinks of the tanks rolling west, one after another, carrying pieces of his labor with them. At midnight he is inside a hull again, tightening a final bracket. His breath fogs in the cold steel chamber. He pauses, listening to the distant echo of artillery being tested somewhere beyond the yard. The new year arrives without announcement. Alexei does not mark it. He just finishes the bolt, knocks 3 times to signal he is clear, and crawls back into the light. March 9, 1943. Nizhny Tagil. The snow begins to rot. It is the first sign that something has changed. The drifts slump and darken, water seeping through boots as workers trudge toward the gates. The cold no longer bites, it lingers damp and heavy. Inside Factory No. 183, the air is thick with smoke and news. Stalingrad is over. The German Sixth Army is destroyed. The word victory appears everywhere, on posters, in speeches, painted in red across brick walls. But the factory does not celebrate. Instead, it adapts. New orders arrive from Moscow. New specifications. New urgency. Alexei is 15 now. He no longer needs to be told what to do. When a new blueprint appears tacked to the wall, he studies it during breaks. He traces the lines with a grease-stained finger. Changes to the transmission housing. Reinforced welds. Lessons written in steel, paid for in blood at the front. Petrov assigns him to a small team, working directly with engineers. You learn fast, Petrov says. Too fast. Alexei does not answer. He knows what that means. The tanks are evolving. Reports from Kursk warn of heavier German armor, Panthers, Tigers. The T-34 must survive longer, hit harder. The boys and girls of the Urals feel the weight of those names, even if they have never seen the machines themselves. One afternoon, a group of wounded soldiers tours the factory. Men with bandaged heads, missing fingers, hollow eyes. They move slowly along the line, guided by party officials. When they stop near Alexei's station, one of them, a tank commander by the look of his jacket, leans close. You built this, he asks, resting a hand on a finished hull. Alexei nods. The man taps the armor with his knuckles. Held at Kursk, he says. Saved us. For a moment the noise fades. The factory seems to recede. Alexei feels something tighten in his chest. Not pride. Something heavier. That night, he dreams of engines and fire. April 1943. Alexei is promoted, on paper, to 3rd-grade metalworker. It comes with no extra food and no fewer hours, but Petrov shakes his hand like a man greeting an equal. Comrade Sokolova has stopped coming entirely. School is over unofficially. Permanently. Mikhail from Leningrad collapses during a shift. Exhaustion. He is carried out and does not return for weeks. When he does, he is assigned lighter work. He looks older than Alexei now, though he is 2 years younger. Nina still works beside Alexei, quieter than before. She no longer speaks of the future, only of the next tank. In June, the factory switches to near-continuous output. Sirens mark shifts like a heartbeat. Alexei forgets what day it is most of the time. He measures life in hulls completed, in turrets mounted, in engines started and not shut down. Then, one morning, a tank does not leave the yard. Its engine coughs, sputters, and dies. Engineers swarm. Voices rise. Alexei is called over. He listens. He smells the fuel. He crawls inside without being asked. It's the line, he says finally, pointing. Misaligned by a few millimeters. An engineer frowns. Impossible. Alexei loosens the mount, adjusts it by feel, tightens again. The engine roars to life. No one cheers. There is no time. The tank rolls out, another number added to the count. That evening, Petrov sits beside Alexei on a crate near the loading platform. "When the war ends," Petrov says, lighting a cigarette, "you'll be a master." Alexei watches the smoke curl into the air. He thinks of the boy who arrived here in October, hands soft, head full of questions. "I don't remember what I wanted to be," he says. Petrov exhales. That's the war. As summer approaches, trains loaded with tanks depart day and night, heading west. Alexei watches them go, knowing that the front no longer feels distant. It has reached back into the factory, shaped him, and claimed years he will never recover. January 27, 1944. Nizhny Tagil. The siren sounds softer now, not weaker, just familiar. Alexei is 16. He notices it only because someone else says it aloud. There is no birthday, no mark on a wall, no pause in the line. Age has become administrative, not personal. What matters is output. The factory has changed shape over the year. New halls have been added. Old wooden floors replaced with concrete. Posters once pleading for endurance now speak of inevitability. Forward to Berlin. Victory is no longer whispered. It is assumed. The tanks, too, are different. Reinforced armor. Improved optics. The factory is no longer just catching up, it is pushing forward. Reports from the front are better now. Long lists of liberated cities are read aloud during shift changes. Each name echoes briefly, then vanishes beneath the sound of machinery. Alexei leads a small crew now, 3 younger boys and a girl barely 14. He corrects their mistakes gently but firmly, the way Petrov once corrected his. When one of them complains about the cold inside a hull, Alexei hands him extra rags without a word. He does not remember learning this leadership. It simply arrived. Petrov is still there, grayer, thinner. He coughs more often. "Another year like this," Petrov mutters one evening, watching a train being loaded, "and the Germans will run out of men before we do." Alexei does not answer. He has learned that men do not run out the way steel does. They are consumed differently. In March, a delegation arrives from Moscow. Real officers this time. Medals on chests. They inspect, nod, shake hands. Alexei receives a certificate for exemplary labor service. His name is misspelled. He folds it carefully and places it under his mattress. It feels lighter than it should. Nina leaves the factory in April. She is reassigned, trained as a radio assembler for armored units. The morning she departs, she stands beside Alexei near the gate, a small canvas bag over her shoulder. "You'll still be here when I come back," she says, trying to smile. Alexei nods. It is easier than promising. As summer returns, rumors spread faster than orders. The Red Army is in Poland, then in East Prussia, then crossing borders that once felt unimaginable. With every kilometer gained, the factory works harder, not less. Victory, it turns out, is expensive. Mikhail from Leningrad returns to full duty, thinner than ever but stubbornly alive. He and Alexei work side by side again, mostly in silence. They no longer talk about before. By November 1944, Alexei is officially classified as an adult worker. The paperwork arrives quietly. Nothing else changes. He is given a heavier wrench and assigned to final hull alignment, a position that requires absolute trust. One night during a rare lull, Alexei stands outside and listens. No engines. No hammers. Just wind moving across the yard and the distant whistle of a train. For a moment, the world feels empty. He realizes then that he does not know what peace sounds like. When the siren calls them back, he does not hesitate. May 9, 1945. Nizhny Tagil. The siren does not sound. At first, Alexei thinks something is wrong. Power failure, perhaps. He sits up on his bunk, confused by the silence. Around him, others are waking too, murmuring, listening. For the first time in years, there is no command pulling them toward the gates. Then the doors burst open. Victory, someone shouts from the corridor. The war is over. The word feels unreal, like a foreign language. Alexei stands slowly, his heart pounding harder than it ever did during an inspection or a test run. Outside, the factory yard fills with people, workers, guards, engineers, spilling out into the morning light. A loudspeaker crackles to life. A party official reads the announcement: Germany has surrendered. The great patriotic war is finished. Some cheer. Some cry. Some simply sit down where they are and stare at the ground. Alexei does none of those things at first. He looks at the factory, the walls blackened with years of smoke, the gates worn smooth by millions of boots. This place raised him. It took his childhood and gave him steel in its place. Petrov finds him near Assembly Hall 3. The older man's eyes are wet, though he pretends otherwise. "We did it," Petrov says. His voice breaks. "You did it." Trains still sit on the tracks, tanks loaded and ready. For hours, no one knows what to do with them. Orders take time to change. Habits take longer. That afternoon, Alexei walks the line one last time. He runs his hand along a hull, the familiar curve of armor cold beneath his fingers. He remembers crawling inside as a frightened boy, banging 3 times so the crane would not crush him. He remembers Nina's smile, Mikhail's silence, the woman carried past with a ruined arm. He is 18 now. In the evening, bonfires are lit in the yard. Someone produces an accordion. Bread and vodka appear from nowhere. Laughter sounds strange, rusty from disuse. Alexei drinks once and feels dizzy, not from the alcohol, but from the absence of pressure. Later, as the crowd thins, he sits alone on a crate. For the first time, he allows himself to think of the future. Not clearly, just vaguely. A life where the siren does not rule every hour. A week later, he receives a letter. His father is listed among the fallen. The date is from 1943. Alexei folds the paper carefully. He does not cry. He has done all his crying already without knowing it. When the factory resumes work, now for peacetime production, Alexei returns. He does not know how to be anything else yet. But as he walks through the gates, the noise feels different. The urgency is gone. The war has released its grip. The tanks he helped build are scattered across Europe now, some rusting, some preserved, some buried beneath fields that will one day grow wheat. Alexei Morozov carries none of them with him. What he carries is time, compressed, hardened, and forged in steel, spent as a child who built weapons so that others might live long enough to be children again.